But to talk more about that and of course to answer all the viewer questions and queries, speaking of, very shortly we will be opening our phone lines as well. So keep your questions and queries ready for our Ask the Money Show segment. The number and the email address will appear on your screens. But yes, like I was saying, to talk about this very topic, I have with me Mr. Lovaii Navlakhi. Mr. Navlakhi, thank you so much then for joining us on ET Now's very special show where we've decided to take upon the topic of retirement. It's something that's perhaps on everybody's mind, but we do believe that, hey, we're still a far away really from retirement. I mean, especially in your 20s and 30s, all you can perhaps think about is when am I saving up and how much am I saving up from my next trip. However, Mr. Navlakhi, explain to our viewers the importance of actually planning for your retirement or thinking of your retirement early.
Yeah, I think it's really right for everyone who starts work to actually think of retirement from the time they start work. But I know it's too much pressure for the people in their 20s to think about it. But as you sort of get to a stage where you have responsibilities, it's the better time to start planning. You may not be able to fulfill the entire amount that you need to put aside for retirement at that point in time. But the earlier you start, the better it is. So even if you can't, put aside the quantum of money that your advisor tells you for your retirement, start with a smaller amount. So you know that, you're already on the way. There is a pot that is being created for you, your piggy bank, which you will not be able to open till when you retire. So that there is a discipline that is built in. And then slowly and steadily you are making sure that your portfolio is growing for retirement. And the earlier you start, the more time that you have to build the portfolio. As you well know, the idea is that you can take more risk when you start off early and you have a longer period of time. And as you approach your particular goal, at that time, liquidity starts getting more important. So at that time, you can start reducing the amount of risk and moving more towards liquidity. The other thing that you have to keep in mind is that certain benefits or certain things that you are used to in your working life will go away when you retire, which is maybe you have an office and there is a support system existing that won't be there. You'll have to probably do your own travel bookings and so on and so forth. Your medical insurance, you'll have to figure out whether you have adequate insurance or not. So these are various things that you need to plan for. But I'm sure you have more questions to ask, so I'll leave that for you to ask questions and I can respond to what needs to get done.
Exactly. So, Mr. Navlakhi, let's assume that our viewers have not yet started their retirement plan, okay? And let's divide it roughly into 3 age brackets. One is, of course, our early jobbers or the guys who just started their jobs, who don't have a care in the world right now about retirement. The second age group may be your middle-aged, maybe 40s, 50s. And then finally, those people who are just about on the verge of retirement, just ready to sail into the sunset. Of course, like you mentioned, building your portfolio. But for each of these 3 age groups, the constituents of the portfolio will vary. Like you mentioned, as you age, liquidity should take precedence. So let's start age group wise. For a younger one, in their 20s or in their early 30s, how should they start building their portfolio for retirement? Which are the assets that they should invest in?
So at that point in time when you are at the early stage of your working career and you're building a corpus, you're earning, you're possibly taking aside some savings and you don't really have a specific goal for that saving. That amount that you're putting away for retirement or for any of these goals is far away. It's a longer time horizon. So at this point in time, my suggestion is that just simply look at building your corpus through equity. For those who are working, you will also know that your company might be taking care of your provident fund. And the provident fund saving that goes, every month as a percentage of your basic salary is also something that is being earmarked or which that is available for you at the time of retirement. So count these two things definitely as part of your retirement goals. The third thing that you might want to do early on is to think about having a PPF account, a public provident fund account, so that the earlier you start, the minimum period for the first tenure of that PPF account is 15 years. So the earlier you start, you'll complete that 15 years early and then you have an option of rolling that over every 5 years. The good thing about PPF, while there is a maximum limit of 1.5 lakhs that you can put every year, the minimum amount that you need to keep in that investment account is only 500 rupees every month, every year. And that's something that you can help to build. So in that early age, your objective is to just increase the amount of corpus which is going to be available to you at retirement. At that stage, you don't really want to lock into things where you don't have leeway to move out of. So these are a few things that you can start off with at that age. When you move to the next sort of age bracket, when you are maybe in the 40s and 50s, maybe early 40s, think about adding the NPS as part of your investment, because by that time maybe you are now earning more than you are really spending or you need for your goal. So you want to take out 10% of your basic salary, which is what is allowed today, go through the company and ask them to put it into the NPS or the new pension scheme. So that again, that part is now being locked in by you, which is not going to be available to you till the time you retire. And at that time too, you'll be able to withdraw 30% of that amount tax-free, or an additional amount. I think it's 60% that you can take with subject to tax, and the rest will then go into an annuity. So at that age of 40, 50, maybe add an NPS element, think of a pension plan, and again, some of these products which have which have lock-ins, that once you enter, it's difficult for you to exit. These are things we would recommend to people who possibly have discipline as an issue, where if they put it in equity or they keep it in their bank account, they will use it for something else. Then some portion of this should go away into a product which you can't touch, because you know that this is the quantum of money that you will need at the time of retirement. As you approach into the 60s, and that's you're very, very close to retirement or you have just started retirement, I think one of the important things that will happen is psychologically you will feel very different. We've seen this with clients that they are very aggressive till probably the last month of working, and suddenly they get into a freeze mode. We have seen that happening. So people, when they're going through this transition, that they are moving from working to a retirement thing, they suddenly feel, oh, I'm losing control. I don't have more money to put in case something goes wrong. So for a period, maybe the first 2 or 3 years when you have retired, I think the biggest focus is on liquidity. You don't want to feel that you have less money. You don't want to feel that you can't spend for a vacation, or you can't spend for some medical or for some gadget that you need in the house, which will help you live life better. So those are things that you do in the early part. But there is an interesting other element that is slowly becoming visible in India, which is life expectancy and people living till much, much longer. So if you look around you, you will see quite a few people now in the 80s and 90s around you. And for them, and when you are in the 60s, you don't think about it. You think, oh, I've just retired. Maybe I have 10 years, 15 years to go. But you don't want your money to run out before you do. So it's very important for you to
Mr. Navlakhi, you know what? One very important thing that many of our viewers do forget to do is also understand the power of compounding. This comes in when you think about maybe you want to defer making an investment for a year or 2 years. And that's where, Mr. Navlakhi, you have very aptly given two examples of two individuals. One who decided to start investing at 25 and the other who decided to start investing at 30. These are our two individuals, Linda and John. Linda decided to start investing at 25, whereas John decided to start investing at 30. Just 5 years has made a difference of more than 2 crore rupees in their corpus. This is essentially what you call the power of compounding. If you decide to start investing by 25, you will have 2 crore more in your corpus by the time you hit the age of 60, as opposed to somebody who has decided to start investing only at 30. That's where, Mr. Navlakhi, I want you to explain to our viewers of how the mathematics of this works and what exactly is it then in terms of an inspiration that you would give our viewers.
Yeah, so for many of the viewers who like to watch cricket, it's like the run rate required to meet the goal. If my end objective is to get 300 runs in 50 overs, I can get 6 runs and over, I can play the first 10 overs as maidens and then say, oh, now I have to get 7.5 runs per over to meet my target. So it is pretty much exactly that. And the idea is that the sooner you start putting in money and you start getting a return, the good thing is that 1 year later, 3 years later, the return starts paying up even on your returns itself. So in the first year, I put in 10 lakh, 10 lakh is my income. I have decided to put 10% of my money towards retirement. I'm getting 12% return. So I put in 1 lakh. At the end of 1 year, I have got 1,12,000 rupees because I put in 1 lakh in the first year. Now in the second year, that same person is now not getting 12,000 but getting 14,400, and that amount keeps sort of growing stealthily, almost unnoticed. And that's where you see this big gap between the bar and in the graph of somebody who's just spent 5 years early and put aside 1 lakh per year. And in this example, one of the interesting things that you will have to remember is that we've taken 10% of your earning and then said there'll be a 5% increase in your salary. But we know in life, when we look at clients and we see their experience, that one, their increases may not be 5% every year. There could be one-off years when there is a big jump, A. B, the amount of spending and saving pattern changes. When you get married, when you have a child, and the child now in the early age, you're spending a lot, then this now started to go to school. So your expense starts coming down. So you have the capability of actually pushing in some more money into this corpus. And then this gap will look significantly, the gap will be significantly wider. So the earlier you start, the much better it is.
All right. I don't know if you need any more inspiration, but I think getting a neat 2 crore rupees more is enough inspiration, at least for me, to kickstart the investing journey. But at this point of time, then, viewers, we'll keep our phone lines as well as our email address as well. That one's always open, but we'll definitely keep our phone lines open. 24990388. Call in now, and Mr. Navlakhi will answer all your questions and queries with respect to saving up for your retirement or investing in your retirement. For now, we've received lots of queries via email, so I'm going to straight up get to answering that. Our very first question is coming in from Siddhartha Mishra. Siddhartha says, I have a lump sum of 15 lakh rupees to invest for my retired parents who are in their early 70s and are both pensioners, and so they would not need any income from this money. They're just primarily looking for wealth creation and diversification because they have bank fixed deposits. He intends to put this money in debt funds, equity savings, balanced advantage kind of products, so they earn better returns compared to fixed deposits. Now he wants to know what kind of funds, but his time horizon is only 5 to 10 years. Now he is doing this for his retired parents who are already in their early 70s. Mr. Navlakhi, if there's anything that we just learned from you, is that as you age, you should invest in those products that are more liquid, that are more safer. So firstly, for Siddhartha, would it be wise to put that 15 lakh rupees in something other than an FD which the parents already have? Should he go for the equity and balanced funds that he does want to go for?
Yeah, I think that what I gather from the mail is that he is taking charge of his parents' finances. So he's taking the decision to move that money out of fixed deposit. And to that extent, as long as he's available as the safety blanket, I think it's a good idea to do this. It may be advisable for him to think of, like, for example, the Edelweiss Equity Savings Fund, the ICICI Prudential Balanced Advantage, and then if he needs a short-term fund, then the IDFC short-term fund is a really very clean fund, and those are places where he can invest in. One other idea I have for him is that I have seen some other clients, when they are managing the money for their parent, what they actually do is they fix with the parent that, okay, you are getting 7% return on your FD, I will guarantee you that, and they include this money in their portfolio, go by their risk profile, which could be a little more aggressive. And then in case they make extra return, they go and give their parents saying, okay, see, on the part that I invested for you, I got 8.5% or I got 9%. So there's extra 2% for you. So that's another way that you could possibly think of it.
Okay, yeah. Well, make sure that when you are investing for your parents, it does match the risk profile of your parents and not yourself, because your own portfolio may be such that you have the ability to take on more risk, but not your 70-year-old parents. So be mindful of that. Okay, next up we have Vinayaka Vedya, who has sent in a question. Vinayaka says, I have heard about many annuity plans like LIC, SBI, etc. My question is, A, is it a good idea to buy an annuity for retirement? B, which company is good? So firstly, Mr. Navlakhi, for all our viewers who may be unaware, what exactly is an annuity? And of course, if you could help Vinayaka answer his question.
Yeah, so an annuity is essentially a plan where you are going to put in a lump sum of money, and by giving that money to that particular insurance company or fund manager of that insurance company, you're saying that I want a certain return from that annuity. Now, annuity come with various sort of terms and conditions. You can take an annuity for life, you can say minimum 10 years, you can say 10 years guaranteed and thereafter to the surviving spouse, and so on and so forth. So you can have different sort of terms and conditions. So you should sort of understand those options that are available and choose what's best suited for you. Each of these annuities today probably give you something like 6 to 7% per annum in terms of return. Of course, that is added to the income of that annuity holder. So typically this happens during your retired life. So logically, you might not have too much of other income. So you may be in a lower tax bracket. So keep that in mind. In terms of companies, I think essentially you need to go with some of the larger companies, LIC, ICICI, HDFC. These are some of the good names that you can invest in because you want to make sure that there's no risk with the product.
Okay, I hope that Annuity 101 explainer has been enough for all our viewers who are considering opting for that option for their retirement years. Do take note of that. And of course, there are lots of companies that do provide such annuity. LIC, SBI, like Vinayaka mentioned, are some of the examples, but there are a whole host of them. Do your research accordingly. Okay, we have Vinay Pahar who has sent in a question. He says, I retired last year in December. I am eligible to receive gratuity and pension. My company is asking me if I would like my pension all at once or over a period of time. To put it in taxation and technical terms, basically commuted and uncommuted pension, both of these have a different tax liability as well that may be imposed. So you have to be mindful of that. What would be better in terms of time value of money is his question. Mr. Navlakhi, like I said, commuted, uncommuted pension, both of them have a tax treatment that, he may have to pay taxation on, or TDS will be cut. So keeping that in mind, and also, of course, based on time value of money, inflation, etc., like Vinay has rightly pointed out, what option would you give him? What option would you advise he chooses?
So basically in the pension plan, because this is something now that is already been invested in, he has an option at the time of retirement to compute probably 1/3 of that amount. So that is the amount that is available to him tax free. And I think that is logically something that you would take out from there, because you can try and find other investment options with that amount, which may give you a return which is slightly better than the annuity. So the rest of that money needs to get converted to an annuity. As we said in the previous question, this is something that you might earn 6 to 7% on, but it's added to your income and it is taxable. In gratuity, I think what he mentioned, it's 20 lakh basically is a maximum quantum of money that is tax free available to him, but it's linked to what is last salary drawn 15 days for every month or every year of work that he's had. So based on that, you need to decide. But I think there is no choice in gratuity. You have to take the amount at one go. So he'll take that amount at one go. I think it's a lot to do also with his cash flow requirement, his other financial goals when he decides, how much to commute, how much to take out, should I pay some tax and take away the money.
All right. Mr. Navlakhi, just a question from my part. While we do know now that how we have to invest our money as we age, and of course even the benefits of starting to invest early, the question is, how can one arrive or come to the amount that one will need by the time you retire, which may be 30 years from now, 20 years, or even 5 years from now?
Yeah, so one of the ways that you want to work with is, so for the time being, assume that you have some time that you are working, then you will retire, and then you have to estimate how long you require that money in retirement. So what's your life expectancy? So if I take a simple number and say that, after my retirement, let me plan for 30 years. Then for every 1 lakh of rupee that I require in terms of expenditure at the time of retiring, for 1 lakh of rupees, if I'm earning anywhere between 1 to 3% over and above the rate of inflation, then I need broadly about 15 crores of rupees, between 13 to 17 crores. So say 15 crores of rupees is what I require at the time when I have retired, and that will take care of 1 lakh starting from that day. So if you think today you are at the age of say 40 and your expenditure is going to be 1 lakh rupees a month, then first thing that you need to do is to inflate that amount to that age of 60 when you retire. So if it is 20 years from today, then it is quite likely that at even 5 or 6% inflation rate, then that 1 lakh will actually equal to maybe 2.5 or 3 lakhs of rupees. So that's the first thing you arrive at. The other thing you say, okay, I now have 20 years for my retirement and I need to hit this target of 15 crores of rupees or 25 crores of rupees. Now, this seems like a very, very large number, but for people who have, say, 20 years to invest, then if you were just to put aside 1 lakh rupees, 10,000 rupees a month, which is 1 lakh 20,000 a year, at the end of 20 years, you would end up with something like 1.25 crores of rupees. So you already probably at the age of 40 have some corpus, so that's already earning some money, and then you are adding this additional sum of money on a monthly basis. And I've taken a very low figure of 10,000 for just for an example. So if you, let's say, were in a position to do 1 lakh rupees a month at that point in time, then your corpus would go to maybe 15 crores of rupees anyway by the time you reach your retirement age. So the calculation is to do with life expectancy, with rate of return till the time you retire. And the third thing that you need to take into account, what's the quantum of money that you need every month? And then what is the rate of return I will get over inflation in my retirement tenure?